The sleek research vessel Empirical Truth descended through Earth's atmosphere with all the grace of a ballet dancer, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns across the African savanna below. Chief Xenobiologist Zix, 427, stood at the observation deck, their 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession as they reviewed the preliminary data for the 15th time. Their species, the Vexari, prided themselves on thorough scientific methodology and impeccable research standards. Another primitive Class 3 planet, Zix muttered to their research team, tentacles waving dismissively at the view screen. Though I must admit, the biodiversity readings are intriguing. Junior researcher Krull 89 bobbed their sensory stalks in agreement. The preliminary scans show an unusual number of large herbivorous species, Chief. Most fascinating is their continued survival despite lacking any significant defensive capabilities. The vessel's AI chimed in with its characteristic monotone. Landing zone secured. Local designation, Murchison Falls National Park, Uganda. Temperature, 31.2 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 78%. Local megafauna detected within observation range. Zix's epidermis rippled with anticipation as they activated their personal data tablet. The Vexari Science Academy had sent them to catalogue Earth's herbivorous megafauna, a task they considered beneath their credentials. After all, they had previously documented life on 17 different worlds. What could this backwater planet possibly show them that they hadn't seen before? Deploy the hover platforms, Zix ordered, their voice carrying that particular tone of academic superiority that only decades of prestigious research could cultivate. And ensure the quantum imaging arrays are properly calibrated. I want every detail of these supposedly peaceful creatures documented. The research team bustled about with well-practiced efficiency, their high-tech equipment humming to life. Their ship's defensive shields might have been complete overkill for studying plant-eaters, but protocol was protocol. Besides, it gave them an excuse to show off their technological superiority to any locals they might encounter. "Chief," called out Krull, their voice carrying a note of confusion, "I'm detecting some anomalous readings from the local water sources. The life forms there. They're rather large." Zix barely glanced at the readings. "Herbivores, Krull, nothing more than oversized grass processors. Our civilization mastered the documentation of such creatures 3 centuries ago. Now prepare the observation drones and do remember to activate their cloaking fields. We wouldn't want to startle these simple beasts." As the African sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the savannah, none of the Vexari researchers noticed the knowing smirks on the faces of the human park rangers watching from their observation post. The rangers had seen that look of alien overconfidence before, and they knew exactly how this was going to play out. One of them reached for their radio, keying in the frequency to headquarters. "Hey, Control? Yeah, we've got another bunch of alien researchers. And guess what? They're heading straight for the hippo pools." The response crackled back through the speaker. "Should we warn them?" The ranger chuckled, watching the sleek alien hover platforms glide toward the water. "Nah, some lessons are best learned firsthand." The morning sun cast a golden sheen across the water as the Vexari research team positioned their hover platforms above the hippo pool. Chief Zix 427 adjusted their atmospheric filter, their epidermis crinkling at the pungent smell rising from the water below. "Fascinating," Krull 89 whispered, manipulating the controls of their quantum imaging array. "These specimens appear to be engaging in some form of communal rest behavior, much like the grazing spheroids of Centauri Prime." Below them, a pod of hippopotamuses lounged in the murky water, only their nostrils, eyes, and ears visible above the surface. Occasionally, one would open its mouth in what the aliens interpreted as a peaceful yawn, revealing massive teeth that the Vexari assumed were clearly evolved for plant consumption. "Note the passive behavioral patterns," Zix dictated to their research log. "Subject species shows minimal movement, suggesting an energy-conservative lifestyle typical of large herbivorous creatures. Their apparent lethargy indicates a complete lack of predatory instincts." One of the junior researchers, MEP-12, raised their sensory appendages in confusion. "Chief, I'm detecting unusually developed muscle mass in these creatures. The density readings are off our standard charts." Zix waved a tentacle dismissively. Obviously an adaptation for supporting their bulk in aquatic environments, nothing more. Compare them to our own gentle grazers back home, peaceful beings despite their size. The hover platform drifted closer to the water's surface. One particularly large hippo turned its head slightly, fixing the invisible craft with what seemed to the aliens like a docile stare. The Vexari had no way of recognizing the territorial glint in those eyes. "Chief," Krull called out, excitement causing their voice to modulate higher. "What if we were to conduct a comparative analysis? The Academy would be most impressed by a direct behavioral study." Zix's epidermis shifted to a shade indicating deep thought. Elaborate researcher Krull. "Well," Krull's tentacles twisted with academic enthusiasm, "we have the razor beast in containment aboard the ship. It's the apex predator of our homeworld, bred for combat in our ancient arena games. If we were to arrange a controlled interaction to demonstrate the superior evolution of our world's creatures," Zix finished, their four eyes gleaming. Yes, that could work. The razor beast could easily subdue one of these docile creatures, proving our hypothesis about Earth's primitive development. The research team began chattering excitedly about testing protocols and observation parameters. None of them noticed how the other hippos in the pool had begun to orientate themselves toward the hover platform's location, despite its cloaking field. "The razor beast hasn't had a proper exercise session since we left port," MEP-12 noted, already calculating the logistics, "and these creatures seem perfectly suited as a safe test subject. They're clearly non-aggressive." At that moment, one of the hippos released a massive yawn, its jaws opening to reveal teeth the size of the alien's forearms. The Vexari interpreted this as another sign of the creature's peaceful nature, completely missing the warning display for what it was. "Prepare the containment field generators," Zix ordered, their epidermis now glowing with anticipation. "We'll set up a controlled environment on the shore. The Academy will be thrilled with our initiative. Imagine the papers we'll publish, comparative analysis of primitive Earth herbivores versus advanced predatory species. My reputation will be secured for decades." As the research team excitedly prepared for their experiment, the human rangers watching from their distant post just shook their heads. One of them picked up their binoculars, focusing on the telltale shimmer of the cloaked alien craft. "Should we tell them about the territorial behavior?" one ranger asked. "Should we mention the bite force?" added another. "Should we explain why hippos kill more humans than any other African animal?" They all looked at each other and grinned. Sometimes the best research came from first-hand experience. Besides, the aliens' shields would probably protect them. Probably. Park Ranger James Wilson had seen enough. After 20 years of service at Murchison Falls, he knew exactly how this situation would end. Grabbing his radio and official park badge, he drove his jeep toward the shimmering distortion in the air that betrayed the alien's presence. "Excuse me," he called out, waving his arms. "Visiting research vessel, this is Park Ranger Wilson. We need to have a chat about your intended experiment." The Vexari research team froze in surprise as their cloaking field was so easily penetrated by this primitive local's awareness. Chief Zix 427 activated their universal translator with an irritated flick of their tentacles. "Yes, local authority figure," Zix's translated voice dripped with barely concealed condescension. "How may we assist you with your concerns?" James crossed his arms, putting on his best dealing with difficult tourists face. "I understand you're planning some sort of interaction between your specimen and our hippos. As the senior ranger on duty, I strongly advise against this course of action." Krull 89 bobbed their sensory stalks in what passed for amusement among their species. "My dear primitive friend, I assure you we have taken all necessary precautions. Perhaps you'd like to observe our razor beast. It might help ease your understandable concerns." With a theatrical flourish, the aliens activated a containment field near the shore. Inside, their prized combat beast materialized. The razor beast stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder, its 6 muscular legs rippling with cybernetic enhancements. Its exoskeleton gleamed with metallic plates, and 3 pairs of serrated mandibles clicked menacingly. Neural combat processors were visibly embedded in its armored skull, and retractable titanium alloy claws extended from each of its 24 digits. "Impressive, isn't it?" Zix preened. "The razor beast is the pinnacle of our world's evolution, further enhanced by our superior technology. It has never lost a battle in any of our tested environments. James pinched the bridge of his nose. Look, I get that your pet there is quite the specimen, but you're really not understanding what you're dealing with. Hippos aren't just... The specimen has been enhanced with our finest combat neural interfaces, MEP12 interrupted, practically vibrating with pride. Its reaction speed has been increased by 300%, and its natural armor has been reinforced with our most advanced metalloid compounds. That's great, James tried again, but hippos can bite with a force of... We have calculated all variables, Zix cut in smoothly. The herbivore's mass, probable movement speed, and likely defensive capabilities. Our containment field will ensure no actual harm comes to your planet's primitive fauna. We are scientists, after all. The research team began setting up their observation equipment, clearly dismissing James's presence. He watched as they established a rectangular arena near the water's edge, using their containment field technology to create invisible barriers. The field will allow full observation while preventing any uncontrolled variables, Kral explained, apparently taking pity on the confused local. We've even added slight motivational impulses to ensure the herbivore engages with our razor beast, though I doubt your peaceful grass-eater will do more than attempt to flee. James leaned against his jeep, watching as the aliens made their final preparations. The razor beast paced its containment field, its enhanced muscles coiling with lethal grace. Multiple weapon systems were visible across its modified frame, and its neural combat processors pulsed with angry red light. One last time, James called out. Hippos are highly territorial, surprisingly fast, and incredibly dangerous. They kill more people in Africa than... Yes, Zix interrupted again. Your concern for your local wildlife is admirable, if misplaced. Now please maintain a safe distance as we begin our controlled scientific observation. The research team positioned themselves at what they considered a safe height above their experimental arena. The razor beast was moved into position, its combat systems humming to life. Neural interfaces glowed as combat algorithms activated, and its enhanced senses focused on the water's edge. Beginning specimen motivation sequence, MEP12 announced, manipulating their control panel. Introducing mild electromagnetic pulses to encourage the herbivore to approach the testing area. James watched as the hippo pool's largest bull slowly turned toward the shore, its small eyes fixed on the razor beast. He noted how the other hippos were spreading out in the water, taking up tactical positions that the aliens completely failed to recognize. You really should have listened to me, he muttered, climbing into his jeep and starting the engine. But hey, at least you got good shields on that fancy ship of yours. You're probably going to need them. The head researcher's translated voice floated down from above. Local authority figure, if you insist on observing, please do so from behind our safety perimeter. We wouldn't want you to be alarmed when your peaceful herbivore demonstrates its obviously non-threatening nature. James put his jeep in reverse. Oh, I'll keep my distance all right, but not for the reasons you think. The bull hippo was now moving toward the shore with purposeful intent, water streaming off its massive form. The aliens' instruments tracked its approach with clinical detachment, still collecting data about its peaceful, herbivorous behavior. They were about to collect a lot more data than they'd bargained for. The bull hippo emerged from the water like a living mountain, each step sending tremors through the ground that the Vexari's instruments definitely noticed, but chose to ignore. Water cascaded off its massive form as it stood fully revealed on the shore, its bulk far more impressive on land than it had appeared in the pool. Beginning preliminary observation of herbivore defensive posture, Kral 89 narrated into their research log. Subject appears to be displaying standard grazing species behavior, slow movement, unfocused gaze, typical mass-inefficient body structure. The razor beast shifted in its combat stance, its neural processors analyzing the opponent. Warning indicators flashed across its enhanced vision as its combat algorithms attempted to categorize the threat level of the creature before it. For the first time in its extensively modified existence, the beast's programming returned conflicting data. Release combat restraints, Chief Zix 427 ordered, their epidermis glowing with academic excitement. But maintain non-lethal protocols. We wouldn't want to damage the local wildlife unnecessarily. The containment field between the two creatures shimmed and disappeared. The razor beast immediately dropped into an attack posture, its 6 legs spreading wide as targeting systems locked onto the hippo. The bull hippo, for its part, simply opened its mouth in what the aliens still somehow interpreted as a yawn. "Oh dear," came Ranger Wilson's voice from his safely distant position. "You really shouldn't have done that." The razor beast struck first, exactly as its combat protocols dictated. It launched forward with cybernetically enhanced speed, titanium claws extended, neural processors calculating the optimal attack vector. Its first strike was perfect, textbook really, a blow that could shred armor plating. The hippo didn't even try to dodge. The sound that rang out across the savannah was not the screech of claws tearing flesh, but rather the sharp crack of advanced metalloid alloys meeting something far, far more durable than expected. The razor beast actually bounced off the hippo's hide, its combat computers frantically recalculating. "Fascinating," MEP-12 exclaimed. "The herbivore appears to have some form of natural armor we didn't detect." Adjusting scanning parameters. The hippo's mouth opened again, but this time there was no mistaking it for a yawn. Its jaws gaped wide enough to swallow the alien researchers whole, revealing teeth the size of combat daggers. The razor beast's threat assessment protocol suddenly started screaming. That's not a grazing dentition pattern," Kral stammered, their tentacles writhing in confusion. The hippo charged. For all its enhanced speed and neural processors, the razor beast barely managed to leap aside as 2 tons of pure aggression thundered past. The hippo's turn radius proved surprisingly small for its mass, and before the combat algorithms could properly adjust, it was coming back for another pass. "Activating secondary combat protocols," Zik shouted, their professional demeanor cracking slightly. "Deploy auxiliary weapon systems." Panels opened across the razor beast's enhanced frame, revealing an array of sophisticated energy weapons. Targeting lasers painted the hippo's bulk as the beast prepared to demonstrate its technological superiority. The hippo responded by simply lowering its head and accelerating. The collision that followed would be analyzed by Vexari scientists for years to come. The razor beast fired a barrage of energy pulses, each powerful enough to stun a charging predator. They splashed harmlessly off the hippo's hide. Then 600 pounds of cybernetically enhanced apex predator met 4,000 pounds of extremely irritated river horse. The razor beast went flying. "Impossible!" MEP-12's voice hit notes their translator couldn't quite handle. "The force required to launch a fully enhanced razor beast would be about normal for a hippo," Ranger Wilson's helpful voice crackled over their comm system. "You might want to recall your pet before—" The hippo's jaws closed around one of the razor beast's cybernetically enhanced legs. Advanced alloys and reinforced servos meant nothing to teeth evolved to crush crocodile skulls. The sound of metal and synthetic bone giving way echoed across the savannah. "Emergency protocols," Zik screamed, their epidermis flashing warning colors. "Activate all combat enhancements. Maximum power to offensive systems." The razor beast's neural processors pushed past their safety limits, combat drugs flooded its system, and emergency power surged through its frame. It lashed out with every weapon in its considerable arsenal. Energy pulses, sonic disruptions, electromagnetic bursts, and all 20 of its remaining titanium claws. The hippo didn't seem to notice. What followed was less a battle and more a systematic demonstration of why hippos had survived alongside Earth's megafauna predators without developing any significant defensive adaptations. They simply hadn't needed any. The razor beast's most powerful attacks left barely a scratch on the hippo's hide, while each casual swipe of the hippo's head sent the alien creature sprawling. "Chief," Kral's voice shook as they watched their prized combat beast being treated like a chew toy. "I'm detecting multiple similar specimens approaching from the water." Sure enough, the rest of the hippopod had decided to join the fun. The razor beast's combat computers, tasked with tracking multiple targets, each masses more than its threat assessment protocols had rated as possible, did the only logical thing: they crashed. "Containment field!" Zik screamed. "Maximum power, get our specimen out of there!" The emergency retrieval beam managed to snag the razor beast just as the hippopod was about to close in. The once proud combat creature materialized on the research vessel's deck, missing 2 legs, most of its armor plating, and apparently its desire to ever go near water again. Its neural processors would need complete replacement, having burned out trying to comprehend how a mere herbivore had so thoroughly demolished it. Down below, the bull hippo let out a dismissive snort and began ambling back to its pod, apparently considering the matter settled. The other hippos were already returning to their previous positions in the pool, though the aliens noticed with newfound terror that they all seemed to be keeping one eye on the hovering research platforms. "So," Ranger Wilson's voice cut through their shocked silence, "about those peaceful herbivore assumptions." Back aboard the Empirical Truth, the Vexari research team huddled around their data terminals, their epidermis cycling through various shades of disbelief as they reviewed the combat footage. The razor beast lay in the medical bay, its neural processors still occasionally sparking and its remaining legs twitching at phantom memories of those terrible jaws. "This simply cannot be correct," Chief Zix 427 muttered, running the analysis for the 12th time. "The bite force calculations, they must be wrong. No herbivore could possibly—" A gentle knock on the ship's hull interrupted their crisis of scientific faith. Ranger Wilson stood outside, holding a tablet and wearing the patient expression of someone who had given this lecture many times before. "May I come in?" he called out. "I brought some data you might find interesting." The research team exchanged glances before Zix reluctantly lowered the entry ramp. Their professional dignity was already in shambles. They might as well learn exactly how wrong they'd been. "First off," Wilson began, settling into a chair that morphed to accommodate his human form, "those bite force readings you're struggling with? They're actually a bit low. A hippo can exert up to 2,000 pounds per square inch with their canines. That's enough to slice a small boat in half." MEP-12's tentacles curled in horror. But they're plant-eaters." "Oh, they absolutely are," Wilson agreed cheerfully, pulling up some files on his tablet. "They graze on grass. About 88 pounds of it per night, actually. They're vegetarians. They just happen to be extremely cranky vegetarians who can outrun a human on land, who regularly take on crocodiles for fun, and who are responsible for more human fatalities in Africa than any other large animal." Kral 89, still frantically sorting through their scattered data chips, paused. "More than your predatory species? More than lions?" "Way more," Wilson confirmed. "Here's some historical data for you. Hippos kill about 500 people per year in Africa. Lions, maybe 22 on a bad year. Even Cape Buffalo only manage about 200, and they're actively aggressive." The aliens crowded around Wilson's tablet, their scientific curiosity overriding their recent trauma as he showed them video after video of hippos in action, flipping boats, chasing speedboats, taking on entire pods of crocodiles and sending lions running for their lives. But why?" Zix finally asked, their voice small. "If they're herbivores, why evolve such devastating combat capabilities?" Wilson shrugged. "Territorial instinct mostly. They're not actually trying to eat anything they attack. They just really, really don't like other creatures in their space. Those teeth? They're not for eating meat, they're for fighting other hippos." "Fighting other hippos?" MEP-12's translator crackled with static as they processed this. "You mean what we saw wasn't even their full combat capability?" "Oh no," Wilson grinned. "What you saw was basically a warning shot. Male hippos regularly fight each other during mating season. Those battles make what your razor beast experience look like a gentle pat. Here, let me show you some footage of actual hippo-on-hippo combat." The research team watched in horrified fascination as Wilson played recordings of bull hippos fighting, their massive teeth clashing, blood coloring the water, neither backing down despite injuries that would have felled any reasonable creature. "And this is normal behavior?" Kral asked weakly. "Completely normal," Wilson confirmed. "They're highly social within their pods, but extremely territorial. They've been known to attack pretty much anything that annoys them: boats, cars, other animals, lawn furniture. One even chased a bell ringer up a tree at a safari lodge. The guy was stuck there for hours." Zix's epidermis had taken on a pale, scholarly hue as they began documenting everything. "Their speed in water, about 5 miles per hour sustained. They don't actually swim, they run along the riverbed. Land speed, 19 miles per hour in short bursts, faster than most humans can run. Defensive capabilities. Their skin is about 2 inches thick, highly water resistant and tough enough that most predator attacks don't even leave a scratch. Plus, they can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes underwater." The aliens were now taking notes with the frenzied energy of researchers who had just discovered their entire theoretical framework was wrong. Zix had already started drafting a revised paper titled Preliminary Studies on Earth's Combat Herbivores, a Revolutionary Understanding of Non-Predatory Aggression. I don't suppose, Kral ventured cautiously, this is unique among Earth's herbivorous species. Wilson's grin widened. Oh, you folks are going to love reading about elephants and Cape buffalo and moose. Actually, most of our larger herbivores are perfectly capable of ruining anyone's day. The hippos are just the most enthusiastic about it. The research team shared a collective moment of silence, contemplating their shattered assumptions about peaceful plant eaters. In the medical bay, the razor beast whimpered softly in its sleep. Perhaps, Zix finally admitted, their professional pride warring with scientific integrity, we should revise our classification protocols for Earth's wildlife. Probably a good idea, Wilson agreed, though I have to say your combat beast held up better than most things that annoy the hippos. Usually there's a lot less left to study afterward. Official report to Vexari Science Academy from Chief Xenobiologist Zix 427, Re-Earth Classification Update, Priority Urgent. Esteemed colleagues, I am writing to formally request an immediate reclassification of research protocols regarding planet Earth, designation Sol 3. Our previous classification of this world as a Class 3 standard evolution planet was, I must admit with some embarrassment, drastically incorrect. Following an intensive field study of what we initially assumed to be non-threatening herbivorous specimens, I am recommending Earth be immediately redesignated as a Class 1 death world, with additional hazard warnings for deceptively peaceful-appearing megafauna. Our prized razor beast, champion of 17 xenobiological combat trials, was summarily dismantled by what the locals casually refer to as a river horse. The creature in question was merely a standard specimen, not even particularly aggressive by their standards. The repair costs for our combat beast have exceeded our entire research budget. I'm attaching comprehensive data on the specimen designated hippopotamus, along with a requisition for significantly improved research shields and a formal request to never again be assigned to study Earth's peaceful herbivores. Additional notes for future research teams. 1. Do not trust Earth classification systems. Their definition of herbivore appears to include creatures that could easily qualify as apex predators on most known worlds. 2. Local human warnings should be heeded, regardless of how primitive their technology appears. 3. All future research vessels should be equipped with emergency displacement drives. Trust me on this. In conclusion, I believe we must fundamentally revise our understanding of evolutionary patterns. Any world that could produce vegetarians this unnecessarily violent clearly operates on principles we have yet to comprehend. The razor beast, I should note, has developed an interesting new behavior. It now refuses to approach any body of water larger than its drinking bowl. Our xenopsychologists are fascinated. Respectfully submitted to Chief Xenobiologist Zix 427. P.S. The humans have offered to share data about their elephants and moose. I'm respectfully declining and suggesting we reassign that research to someone who has seriously annoyed the Academy Board recently. P.P.S. If anyone needs me, I will be in the ship's relaxation chamber, attempting to understand a universe where grass eaters have evolved to be more terrifying than our most advanced combat creatures. Perhaps I should have become a theoretical mathematician, as my parent unit suggested.